Hello everyone, Ayrton here, and in this video I want to bring you information about Warborn, a free-to-play character but with some more advanced tips. How you can build him in a quote-unquote perfect way to turn him into an NFT. If you haven't seen the beginner Warborn video yet, I recommend you go there and watch it because I won't be repeating the information I shared there in this video. But alright, you already know where to recruit, right? The Warborns here in the camp, and one piece of information I didn't share there which is important is about these passives. The passives come randomly, so you don't choose here. It's not always certain that this slot here will be aggressor, this one discipline and this one support. They will always come randomly. And then at the moment you recruit that Warborn, so I went there and recruited the aggressor one, for example. It will also come with the base stats randomly, but you need to see if what came makes sense with what you want to build, because for example I will explain better about the classes in another video that is also here on Tempest Labs, which is the part about NFTs, but today we can transform a Warborn into a behemoth or sand shaper, which is basically the mage, but it's random. We don't choose what will be transformed. And speaking broadly, the behemoth would be more of a tank and the sand shaper would be more damage oriented. So let's go. Let's suppose I want to build a strong DPS for my composition and I want, right, I'll have a sand shaper there, I'll have a mage. Oh great. So theoretically I want him to be an aggressor and the stats that come right with a good amount there that will focus more on damage. So for example, how is this my Warborn here? Look, the power came as 9 base, very good. The balance came as 6, which is still nice because it will deal more damage in the offhand. The mage has a book here, right, which also has damage and increases the chance of a critical hit, which for the mage will also be very good. By watching my video on the classes, you'll understand the reason. The speed is basically the initiative, so you can see it came with 1 base, so very slow, but the character's focus would be to deal more damage, right? Although the initiative is important because it defines how many times you will hit before the next mob and so on. But then you can try to compensate with items, for example, sometimes adding some status later on. I will be explaining all of this. And fortitude, which like it or not is a basic status for all characters because your characters need to have good maximum health, right? It's no use wanting to focus 100% on power, because then your character will end up dying very quickly. And when I explain in the video about expeditions, missions, and expeditions, you'll also understand the reason, okay? But alright, this here, the base stats, I consider to be, in quotes, perfect because I have 9 base here in power, which will give me overall power. I have 6 in balance, so it will also give me a bit of power in terms of the offhand and will increase my critical chance. The speed is low, but that's alright. I can increase it a little with items that end up having speed along with them, or sometimes I add a few more points later. And fortitude is also at 5, which is a decent value because it's not as low as speed, but it's also not as high as power, for example. So my character will still have a good amount of health. But alright folks, now about these skill points here. You can see that here at the bottom, there are some things you gain according to the level your character reaches. So you get equipment, packs, weapons, but there are also 2 skill points here, see? And you can see that it's random. So there's a bit more RNG involved here as well in trying to build the perfect character, so to speak. Why? If you picked a character that is aggression, which is an aggressor here, ideally you would want to get as many points as possible in the aggressor section here in the skill points, right? Because this will make a future update, which will include a skill tree section where you can improve, allocate points to new abilities, etc. Better for your character. So you can see that I've already claimed the first one from level 5 here, and it also came as aggression. So the first level will always be of your character's type here, so I recruited him as aggression. The first point here came as aggression. The second one, which is what I collect at level 5, came as aggression, so it jumped from this first one here to the second, and at level 10, I'll see if I'm lucky enough for it to move from this 2 here to 3, but it might get a point in discipline or a point in support, and then it would be aggression 2, and one of these 2 here, either discipline or support, would remain as 1. The perfect scenario would obviously be 3, but I believe that having a 2 here is already a nice number as well, right? Especially because there are many RNGs involved, so there's the matter of the character appearing with the passive you want, the matter of when you recruit them coming to the base in the way you want, more or less. And besides that, you have to reach level 10 to see how the skill points will turn out. So I believe that, for example, even if this skill point doesn't reach 3 in aggression, for this character of mine, I will transform him with the intention of probably turning him into a mage and having a very strong damage dealer on my team. And folks, this base status here, at the moment it is transformed into an NFT and becomes either a mage or the behemoth, which is the tank. It will be converted into the primary, secondary, and tertiary status of the transformed NFT, so don't worry about that. But I will also be explaining this status issue better in the video where I talk about the NFT characters. And folks, another tip is to only transform your Warborn character into an NFT when you already have the items equipped here. So have a good reputation so that when you open the packages, you have a higher chance of getting epic or legendary items. However, you need to pay attention to the limit, no? Okay? As I mentioned before, you have a limit of 3 epic items and 1 legendary item. So the ideal would be to transform it into an NFT when you have 1 legendary item, 3 epic items, and the other item, the 5th item, would be a rare one because you wouldn't be able to have any higher level items. And why is this important, folks? Because these items will be transformed according to your character. So if it becomes a mage, this item will be, for example, the legendary one. Let's suppose I got a legendary sword here, or an axe anyway. When I transform this Warborn into an NFT, the weapon will become the weapon of the character that was transformed. So if it became a mage, it will turn into a staff here. If it became the behemoth, it will turn into the behemoth's axe and will be a legendary item. So in this way, you are transforming these items into NFTs as well, not just your character. And the NFT items can be traded here in the marketplace using the network's own currency, Moonbeam. So it's a currency that has its value. It's the currency that people use to trade characters, items, recipes, everything in the game. Everything in the game is an NFT and you can trade it. So you can see here, for example, this boot, it's from Sand Shaper, so it's for the mage. And you can see there, it was obtained via character mint. So where? It was a Warborn character who got it, opened the packages here, won a legendary boot, and at the moment the person turned that Warborn into an NFT, the item was transformed along with it. And from the NFTs, we can unequip the equipment, sell, etc. And you can see that this boot is being sold for 650 moonbeams. And at the current price here, folks, a moonbeam is at 8 cents of a dollar, and 650 would be $52. And you might be wondering, wow, but do people really buy for that price? Yes, folks, a legendary item is not that easy to obtain. So there you can see that the percentage is low, but it's not impossible. But there's the difficulty of building the character, managing to get this item, turning it into an NFT, and for sure this adds value. And there are indeed people who buy it, okay? Well, folks, with this, you'll know everything here about the Warborn character, how you can build it and make it quote-unquote perfect to turn it into an NFT and manage to make your profit, continue playing, improving your account, and so on. I also recommend you watch the other videos here at Tempest Labs explaining everything about Evrloot. That's it for now. Stay with God. A hug. Thanks. Take care. And I'm out.